Well, the death of Charlie Kirk is a watershed moment in America, and of course the blame game is in full swing. While most people in power, chose words of healing and remorse, President Trump immediately launched into the fight. I mean, who's to blame for political violence is the perfect construct for the beloved zero-sum game, us versus them, kind of a nuance-free style of governing. There's only winning, but hours after Charlie's assassination on national television, these words, the radical left political violence has hurt too many innocent people and taken too many lives. And then 2 days later on Fox and Friends, the president said the radicals on the left are the problem, and they're vicious, and they're horrible, and they're politically savvy. Except this is demonstrably false. It's untrue, but it's the same, it's the same Trump who told me in 2003 or in 2004, I can't remember, after I challenged him on his assertion that The Apprentice was #1 in the ratings on NBC. He said, Billy, never mind with all that. You just tell people and they believe you. To my face. I remember we did a Miss Universe pageant down in Ecuador. And right afterwards, he took to the microphone. It was unbelievable. And he said, I just got off the phone with Jeff Zucker of NBC, and unbelievably, the ratings are higher than they've ever been. It's unbelievable. Thank you so much, everybody. I mean, ratings for television don't come in for at least 24 hours, and then you get a little bit of a peak, but doesn't matter. Same thing he said at the end of every debate. We won that. It was outright. All the instant polls are showing that we won it. I did take a note from that, by the way. I'm not totally bagging, because after that, even though Access Hollywood was forever second in the ratings to Entertainment Tonight, from that point forward, I said, yes, I'm the host of the #1 entertainment news show in America. Tell them. They'll believe you. The majority, and by the way, I just ruined that, right? Wasn't true. The majority of politically motivated violence is, in fact, perpetuated by right-wing ideologists. It's true. It has been. Charlottesville, the car attack, the white nationalist James Alex Fields in 2017, the Tree of Life Synagogue in Pittsburgh in 2018, also white nationalist, anti-Semitic Robert Bowers, a truck driver armed with a Colt AR-15 SP-1 semi-automatic, killed 11 people. The El Paso Walmart shooting in 2019, anti-immigrant far-right Patrick Wood Crucius drove 10 hours, opened fire, killing 23 people, injuring 22. He admitted to targeting Hispanics, stating he wanted to stop what he believed was a Hispanic invasion of Texas, the great replacement theory. Buffalo Supermarket, 2022, white supremacist Peyton Gendron, 18-year-old kid, targeting a predominantly black neighborhood, killed 10 people, injured 3 others. He live streamed the attack on Twitch. And you got, January 6th, Nancy Pelosi's husband beaten in his house, Democratic Governor Josh Shapiro's house burnt down, Melissa Hortman, the Democratic leader of the House in Minnesota, and her husband killed in their home. Another senator and his wife from that state shot in bed but survived. The man who tossed Molotov cocktails while shouting Free Palestine at a pro-Israeli demonstration in Boulder, Colorado. The Cato Institute analysis is right in front of you if you're looking on the screen. Research by the Cato Institute found that since 2020, right-wing terrorists accounted for 54% of the 81 people killed in political violence, compared to 22% by left-wing activists. And then the Department of Justice study in 2024, assailants holding extreme views on right-wing issues accounted for 227 ideologically motivated attacks since 1990. It read, militant, nationalistic, white supremacist, violent extremism has increased in the United States. In fact, the number of far-right attacks continues to outpace all other types of terrorism and domestic violent extremism. The first 2 lines of the study read, I'm not picking a side in this at all, nor trying to inflame any type of us versus them narrative. I mean, the Democrats have real problems. But this one isn't, largely all theirs. Why would the president and his surrogates not tell the truth? I mean, why wouldn't they, right? I mean, they have midterms, and frankly, the big guys never lost a wink of sleep due to conscience. His Department of Justice literally removed that DOJ report from their website on September 12th. They pulled it down. They pulled down all the evidence. A copy of it exists on the Wayback Machine, a deep government archive. But they took it down 2 days later. It was up there. The question that we asked at the end of our last podcast a couple days ago is, where do we pick up today? Where do we go from here? How do we fix this? 2 days after Charlie Kirk was shot, Trump responded to a question about how to come back together as a nation amid political division following the death. And he said, I couldn't care less. Well, I care. I hope you care. But we're not blaming a particular party for what has happened, because it's far more important to credit them both for fixing the problem brought forth by a return to civility and respect. I grew up on it with every elected official. The parties were much better behaved. So we are breeding young sociopaths in America. How is it possible that so many young people experience a dissociation from the cultural, societal binds that hold us together? Where is their conscience, their compass? And, I remember, my father raised my brother and I by always talking about the compass. He would say, you have a compass inside of you, boys, right? And the compass is pointing in a certain direction. If you're doing the wrong thing, that compass will start to wobble. It will start to bother you. And at that point, you have to correct your direction. I think the compass is way off here, right? Look at these young people. Uvalde, Texas, the school shooter there, 18 years old in 2022. The Buffalo supermarket shooter in 2022, 18 years old. Parkland School in Florida in 2018, a 19-year-old. El Paso Walmart that I told you about, that kid who drove 10 hours, he was 21. The Emmanuel Church in Charlestown, South Carolina. Charleston, South Carolina, 2015. He was 21 years old. The Utah Valley University. Tyler Robinson, 22 years old. Trump said he couldn't care less about this country coming back together, or at least the political parties. He was ramping up for political warfare. And his little private Benjamin, Pam Bondi, did her part on the Katie Miller podcast.
There's free speech, and then there's hate speech. And there is no place, especially now, especially after what happened to Charlie, in our society. We will absolutely target you, go after you, if you are targeting anyone with hate speech, anything. And that's across the aisle.
So looking into the chat section here, since we are live, Joy says there will always be extremists, regardless of political or an organized religion. Yeah. Of course, there always will be, but not to such a degree. It's getting too desensitized. Well, the old warhorse Britt Hume responded to Pam Bondi. He said, someone needs to explain to Ms. Bondi that so-called hate speech, repulsive though it may be, is protected by the First Amendment. She should know this. Yeah, you can't pursue people for what they say. Can you pursue big tech for letting this video be so easily viewed by minors? We'll get into that. As I've said, nobody's speech threatens me, though. Nobody's view in the world. Am I too thinly wired to hear? Do extreme moments call for extreme measures? Is Pam partially right, or showing once again that she was second choice to Matt Gaetz, whose Botoxed forehead still scares me? Yesterday, Jeff Gray, the Utah County prosecutor, laid out his case against Tyler Robinson. His probable cause went deeper than it had to. He shared a bunch of text exchanges between Tyler and his transitioning lover, Lance Twigg. Tyler said, drop what you're doing, look under my keyboard. Under the keyboard was a note which read, I had the opportunity to take out Charlie Kirk, and I'm going to take it. To which his lover, Lance Twigg, says, what? You're joking, right? And Tyler says, I'm still okay, my love. but I'm stuck in Orem for a little while longer yet. Shouldn't be long until I can come home, but I got to grab my rifle still. To be honest, I had hoped to keep this secret till I died of old age. I'm sorry to involve you. Well, thank God, by the way, that Lance Twigg is involved, because they've been very cooperative. You weren't the one who did it, right? Said Lance. And Tyler responds, I am. I'm sorry. Lance said, I thought they caught the person. And Robinson, nah, they grabbed some crazy old dude and then interrogated someone in similar clothing. No response. Lance probably trying to get a hold of what exactly he had just read. And then Robinson continues, I'd planned to grab my rifle from my drop point shortly after, but most of that side of town got locked down. It's quiet, almost enough to get out, but there's one vehicle lingering. Why? Says Lance. Why did I do it? Yeah, why? Robinson said, I've had enough of his hatred. Some hate can't be negotiated out. Yeah, another pause for Lance to fully understand that he's living with a psycho. And Tyler says, if I'm able to grab my rifle unseen, I will have left no evidence. Going to attempt to retrieve it again. Hopefully they've moved on. I haven't seen anything about them finding it. And Lance says, how long have you been planning this? And Tyler says, a bit over a week, I believe. By the way, the whole time, Lance Twigg, whether knowingly or not, is building the case for the prosecution and gathering the evidence. This latest politically motivated act of violence came from an angry, young, dissociative, pathological, sexually dysregulated, hateful, entitled man-child. But it's not left or right to blame. It's the fringes of both left and right. And both fringes breed hate and grandiosity online to allow politicians from the two parties to frame this as an us versus them argument and jockey for votes, but based on it is just bullshit. You don't get my vote unless you put forth a mad as hell moderate who's had enough of the hijacking of America, someone especially who's not cozying up with big tech. Ironically, they, with all their freedoms and unaccountability, are the greatest threat to democracy, I think. Most Democrats and most Republicans are good people. It's the fringes, and they should be focusing together in a bipartisan way on controlling big tech and what these kids see. The government needs to be way more involved in, I like small government, but if they're not going to police themselves, they got to be involved in little tech, right? Like the little platforms like, Twitch and Discord, these platforms where hatred and grandiosity expand and are deeply complicit there. Tiger Woods, he's not staying quiet. Look what he said. I've never witnessed such darkness. Cheering a death shatters every boundary of decency, and I refuse to stand quiet while humanity itself is mocked. Attaboy, Tiger. Way to step up. Moderate Republican Senator Tom Tillis said in a hearing, within 24 hours of Mr. Kirk shooting, we had the guy that does the podcast for the War Room and another guy who's denied the Sandy Hook shootings say that we're at war. How on earth are we de-escalating the situation? Control your fringes. I mean, Trump had Nick Fuentes, the alt-right leader to Mar-a-Lago. Tell him to tone it down. He's going to follow you no matter what. He's not going with Biden or Kamala or anyone else. Look, the choice is heal the country, usher in respect, but, beat them badly in debate and persuade the voters better than them. That's what we want.